Personal story segment tonight. As you may have heard, actor James Gandolfini is found dead in Rome, Italy, apparently from a heart attack. He was 51 years old. Mr. Gandolfini was a brilliant performer who became world famous with his vivid portrayal of mobster Tony Soprano.
That stuff we talked about before, how's that sitting with you?
Like I wasn't 90% sure already.
What about your brother? Does he know?
I think so.
You know, there was a time, Ed, when the Italian people didn't have a lot of options.
You mean like Mario Cuomo? Sorry.
You know, I put food on the table. My father was in it. My uncle was in it. Maybe I was too lazy to think for myself.
The program, The Sopranos, did receive some criticism because Gandolfini was so charismatic, he almost made the vicious crime boss look like a decent human being. Joining us now from North Carolina to discuss the purveyor of BernardGoldberg.com, Mr. Goldberg. All right, so Gandolfini, undeniably brilliant actor, but I believe that he humanized this guy to the point that it might not have been a positive for the country because impressionable people, younger people in particular, you know, look at this guy who murders people and he sells drugs and he does all kinds of terrible things. But, you know, he's really not all that bad. And you say?
Well, Tony Soprano clearly was a horrible human being. But what made him interesting is that he paid for his sins. He was tortured. Despite the money, the house, the cars, the women, he was never at peace. Here was a guy who could have anything he wants, and he was going to a psychiatrist and taking Prozac. Look, Bill, what makes this great high art, The Sopranos, is that the producers looked at the human condition, and they did what great art does. They shined a light in a very dark place. This was a morality play. And anybody paying attention, maybe not the people you referred to, but anybody paying attention would see that Tony Soprano lost in this morality play.
Okay, and I'm not, the writing was very subtle in the program. If you followed it week to week, you saw his sister, his mother, his uncle, everybody turned against him, his wife in the end. They all turned against him, and you're right. They didn't glorify his situation. But Gandolfini himself, and it's an almost possible position, he's so good that you're drawn to him. You're drawn to him. Yeah, I'd like to have a spaghetti dinner with with Tony Soprano. And it was so much so that people who loved the show, you know, they kind of lost the darkness that you point out. They kind of lost it.
I think there are two kinds of people who would think that way. Real-life gangsters who liked the show and said, oh, yeah, he's a good guy. I like him. He's like me. And basically guys who want to think that they're tough. So they think, yeah, I want to be like Tony Soprano. But in a big country and a show with a big audience, you're going to have some losers who think that way. But there's not a shred of evidence. There's not a shred of evidence that this had any effect on the culture. Look, let me give you an example.
Well, let me challenge that for a minute. The gangsta culture is not just black. There are a lot of whites who want to be gangstas. This was in that realm. Go.
Yes, if you're one of those people who see just the surface of the show and you say, oh, just like you said, he's a gangster. I love him. I think I want to have dinner with him.
I want to be a gangster. Yeah.
I'd like to kill people like you. Yes, I am acknowledging, Bill, that there are some people like that. But people who watch the show with a bit of intelligence saw how miserable it. Look, he had a wife who was as bad as he was in her own way. She knew what he did, and she was willing to put up with that because she liked the jewelry and all that.
But let me make one more point. Let me make one. Did you see the movie The Untouchables with De Niro? De Niro played Al Capone, all right? And in the movie, it's Kevin Costner, Elliot Ness against De Niro, Al Capone. De Niro made Capone into a monster. And De Niro, a charismatic actor, but he took a different way with Capone. He could have done it another way because Capone was charming to a lot of people, but he made him a monster. And
Right.
I admired that portrayal. I'll give you the last
And you know
word.
why? And you know why Tony Soprano wasn't that kind of monster? Because he was vulnerable. He
Right.
was tortured. He was going to a psychiatrist. He was an empty soul. There was nothing inside of him. Now, I don't expect kids to see that, and those are the people who maybe have to worry a little about. But grown-ups who paid attention, no. This did not change the culture for the worse. This was a masterpiece of television.
All right, Bernie, thank you. And our condolences, of course, to the Gandolfini family and also to the family of Vince Flynn, who succumbed to cancer. Great guy, terrific writer. We're going to miss Vince a lot.